I think right here we're pretty darn close. It's it needs some more sanding. Gotta take some marks off, but yeah, I think we've just about got her. Every one of these projects has its surprises, and I knew when I saw this spot right here that it was connected to this one, and I was pretty sure that I could dig this out, meeting this one, and then hollow around. And the idea, keeping with our Toadstool theme, was sort of an Alice in Wonderland thing. Some small glass frogs, maybe a few small, sort of like model making mushrooms glued in there, and we do a little grotto, and that would be the hidden secret of this. As it is, they're not connected, and that ain't as soft and pliable as I thought it would be. So, modifying stuff, I believe that I'm going to paint the bottom of this a swirl blue-green, at which point I'm going to drop in some small pearlescent glass beads, and then these will be the eggs. This will be all epoxy. It'll come across flush. It's just like a little hidden secret. As for the rest of this stuff, that I'm not going to bother with. This is connected with that, and so I'll put a piece of tape over and fill from that side and that crack. I might run a piece of tape up and over the top and attempt to fill that crack from the back side. But to be honest, it's just going to open up anyways, so probably won't bother. I'm not going to bother digging any of these out. I'll simply cover them with epoxy. That'll be the big hidden surprise. Shutting down for the evening, I have got this one under brushed on epoxy. That one I poured epoxy around the base, and those two are sprayed in poly. So my original plan was not to brush these in epoxy, but I had a lot of extra, so win-win for everybody. So this is the epoxy. It's soaked in, hold on, soaked into the cracks. This part here was a little punkier, so it's soaked all the way down in. That'll be our little fish pond pool. Yeah. Hmm? I know, it's the wood. Here. Is that what you want? Alright, fine. How about that? There we go. Toadstool's base is hardened up, and of course the epoxy wicks into the wood. So even though it was full to the brim, it's down there a ways. So, still disappointed with that gap. What are you going to do? That one is in spray. So we're building finish on the surface. Back to the Toadstool. Now I need to do is scrape the finish with a razor blade, pulling off the extra epoxy, which I don't need. Bringing it back down flush. I need to fill. I need to come up with my pearls first, though. I know I've shown this a bunch of times in videos, but this is how I level the surface finish. Is I just use a disposable razor blade knife as a cabinet scraper, and then when it starts to dull, I just throw it away and get another one. Works great. It's way faster than sanding and less money, even if you throw a couple of blades at the project, simply because this epoxy will heat up and plug your sandpaper anyways, and then you got all the dust and nastiness. It's like toxic snow, but it's easy to sweep up. For the most part, it's done. And I know it's a little counterproductive to put all this epoxy on and then scrape it back down, but the result is going to be a very smooth table with few flaws as the light glances across the top. That's what I like. So Hey, gentle buddy. I still have this crack, and I can see the epoxy has filled almost to the surface. So a little more in there. This one needs just a little more. I have to come up with what I'm going to use for my little scene, my little frog eggs. I haven't decided that yet. But other than that, she's basically smooth. A few more flaws. We're ready to go. So this is the base of the Toadstool table, and I'm getting ready to coat it in epoxy. I wouldn't normally, but it's going to have feet and stuff banging against it, so it just makes sense. So I've just sanded it. It ain't perfect, but it's good enough for my purposes. And now I'm brushing it out with the same brush I'll use in a bit to brush on the epoxy. And this helps serve to remove any loose crap stuck to your table base, but it also helps remove any loose crappy bristles in your brush, because those suck having to pick them out. So my epoxy is almost done thawing. Oh, I guess it's not. From being in the freezer. As soon as it's thawed, we'll have at this. You want to go inside? Nope. Nope? Okay. So I've just finished top coating it with epoxy. Hold on. Thank you. Bye-bye. Almost soon. Just finished top coating it with epoxy. And the epoxy, I got it out of the freezer. So it is extra thick. You can slow the reaction, but you can't stop the reaction. So waving the torch over it. Hey, please. Thank you. Waving the torch over it heats it. Makes it far more fluid so it soaks in, which is what I want. It pops the bubbles, which helps smooth it and gives it a shot of heat. So it's not necessarily a required step, but it is a step that I always do. And I'll end up sanding this again. I never use epoxy as a top coat. It's just too hard and too finicky to work with. And so I'll come back after with sandpaper, knock it down, and hit it with polyurethane from a spray. Your epoxy needs that anyways as a UV blocker, so it's no big loss. And I find that to be much simpler than trying to get an epoxy coat to actually act smooth. You know, every time I show this, I show all the crap that Daddy didn't pick up. Oh, good, let's put that in your mouth. This is why Daddy's getting in trouble. So after that second coat of epoxy's hardened, I came back and scraped. The problem I have is it's been really cold out, so even after 2 days, once you get through the top layer, it's still gummy. So I've scraped off the non-gummy stuff. I've got the fire stoked. I'll let it run all night. Hopefully by morning the extra heat up in here will have cured it entirely. Nothing you can do with gummy epoxy. Just wait.